Hi, welcome to the Parenting Bridge podcast. I'm Dr. Michelle Alden, a licensed professional counselor, parent coach, and family therapist. And I'm here to help you to build a bridge to your best family possible. Remember that if you use no, you must, or you can't, those are fighting words. And those are going to we reserve that for like a safety issue. Then it's a no, then it's a must. And then it's, a can't. But if it's the cookies and we used a no, a must, or can't, then we might have escalated it to a safety issue. And I think that's an important thing to realize is that sometimes, even when we're not trying to, we move it to a safety issue because of how we came at it. So one response to a problem is no, you must, you can't. Another response to a problem is to ignore it and not do anything and just let it go. And sometimes we have to do that. But today I really want to talk to you a little bit more about this, another option, which is to work it out. And we want to teach our kids to work it out. We want them to work out their frustration. We want them to be able to work through hard things because remember, we want to use strategies that make things possible, right? We want to open some doors for these kids when they're drowning. We're not just ignoring that. We want to help them through it. We want them to see that there's a lifesaver that they can grab onto, and that right now they can't see it because they're drowning. So even if you hit them over the head with it, they don't see it. So we're going to start on the working it out piece of it. And again, I want to remind you that even though it's in the working it out for you as a parent, if you're not careful, it's going to lead back to lecturing. I told you so, or I've told you 1,000 times type of stuff. Okay. So it's also not just a bunch of questions for the kids. Remember when they're stressed, the questions are really, really tough. So it's helping you to start there. Unless safety and hitting is an issue, we're going to look at what started and what we could have done. So when the child grabs the cookie and when it ends in hitting and kicking, if we really want to resolve that issue in our own minds so we know what to do better next time, we can't just look at the hitting and kicking. We have to look at the fact of what happened when they grabbed the cookie, what was going on. I see a lot of kids grab something like that even when they're starting to get frustrated, so when we come at it with our frustration of like, I told you, no cookie, and then it escalates. So, but at the same time, it's not just letting them have the cookie. We're going to start here. So with that example of the cookie, which may or may not be the best example, I want you to think about some other words, like identifying like, hey, are you hungry? Is that what you're saying? That you're hungry? You want a snack? We're going to have dinner in 10 minutes. Can we put this cookie and eat it after dinner? Are you able to wait 10 minutes? So it's intervening in a way that gives them a different path to choose. It's not asking them too much, but because if you just ask them like, why did you take the cookie? They're not going to be able to give you an answer. Okay? I don't know. Too late now, I put it down my mouth, You're going to acknowledge what you think is happening at that time. Are you frustrated? Sometimes it's a good question, but sometimes it's better to just say, I can see you're hungry, but I will have dinner ready in 10 minutes. Or if it's an hour and a half or 2 hours until the next meal, you might be able to negotiate on something else. You might be able to say, are you still hungry? Like, I know we just had snack, but if you're still hungry, let's have some whatever else it is that you would rather have them have. Or if it's like they just grabbed it and what you're mad about is that they grabbed it without asking, then you can still identify that they grabbed and say, you look like you're still hungry. Yeah, I'm okay if you have the cookie. And then you can say, I wish that you would have just told me, right? So it's like, you gotta remember what your goal is and what you're working on if you don't want it to escalate to just being hit or the cookie thrown or whatever else happens. So remember you have that place of like saying no, but that might also move it into more of a safety issue. But our goal is to work it out. We want to identify for them what they might be feeling because we want eventually for them to be able to say it, and we're giving them kind of that brain mapping, how to help them. It's not really brain mapping, it's more like a roadmap. So we're giving them a mental script to provide a way to think more clearly. So, if this is where, like, when you have those calmer times with your kid, when they're not upset, when you're doing something that they like side by side that they enjoy, or whatever, you're not having a conflict, you can have those conversations about, hey, when you get frustrated, what can we do? What can we do when you get frustrated? And really listen to what they have to say. If they start to get really frustrated while you're talking about it, which some kids do, then you might have to bring them back down. Like, hey, I just want to help you. Like, if we don't talk about it, I can't help you. You're not in trouble right now, but I just want to be able to talk to you about, like, what should we do with frustration? What do we do in our family with frustration? How do you handle your frustration? Really be careful that you don't just start lecturing about, like, well, when I'm frustrated, I do this, and then you go on and you kind of lose the kid, because they may or may not be listening. And know that even if you have a really good conversation and you come up with some ideas about what you're going to do, what they're going to do when they're frustrated, and how you're going to help them, I notice you're frustrated, I'm going to tell you to take a break. But just know that just because you talked about it doesn't mean the next time they're frustrated, everything's going to be fine, and that they're going to remember to use their tools, or that they're going to know what to do. You're going to say, you're getting frustrated, so we're going to take a break. And so you're going to still direct it. They're going to need help, and they're going to mess up, and you're going to mess up too, because frustration is frustrating. And so it's going to take some practice, but that's what we have in our families, is this ability to practice and to learn. So we're giving them ways to think more clearly, and we're staying calm where normally they would be irrational or explosive. We want them to learn to stay calm. And so you got to have to address that with your kids. Like, hey, when you get upset, you just explode, and I want to help you, because we got to work through this. We got to find better ways. So what is going to be okay? So you're going to want to identify what they feel. Like, you can say, hey, it looks like you're getting frustrated, or I can tell you're embarrassed. So here's what we're going to do, and come in with that plan and be directive. We're not ignoring it, but we also want to move past it. So we're not going to stay stuck there. We're not going to make accusations. We're not going to say, like, you always get frustrated. Like, I don't know how to help you because you always get frustrated every time we sit down to do this. Or, also, like, we can get stuck in identifying too much. Like, I know you hate spelling, and so, I hate to do this to you, and I don't want you to have to do spelling, but your teacher wants you to do it. No. We have to do this. It's difficult. Let's get through it as quickly as possible. So you're kind of approaching it that way. You're going to also rehearse with your kids. Like, you're going to give them the scripts. So you're going to tell them, like, man, it would help me a lot if you could just say, I'm frustrated. Or, I can't do this. Or, I don't want to do this. Maybe that means I'm frustrated. If that means I'm frustrated, I'm going to listen for that when you say that. And I'm going to look for maybe the least offensive way that you can tell me you're frustrated, and how I can help without having to ask you. Because when you're frustrated, it doesn't work for me to ask you. So a lot of it's going to take you thinking about your child and how they interface, in this whole thing, and what you can do. It's not totally ignoring it or redirecting it. It's not trying to talk them out of it. It's identifying it and helping them to move through it. Now, what about safety? And we're going to kind of wrap up with this kind of stuff. So I want you to realize too, that with our kids, and just the way our world is, and the way that we all kind of interact, there is a demand for rapid processing. And our kids are not good at this. When we say stop, we want them to stop. When we ask a question, we want an answer. So remember that pause and that waiting and not pushing. We don't need to ask 10 times. We don't need to keep rephrasing the question. Just give them a minute to think. When nothing's happening, they will fill in the blanks, because the waiting can be uncomfortable too, but it gives their brain time to think. If kids are telling you no right off the bat, if they're saying, I don't know, if they're saying what, that gives their brain time to process, and that's what they're really asking for, is that wait. So if they say what, you don't need to say it again, just wait a second. Don't say, I already told you. Don't say, what did you hear? Just wait at least 30 seconds. Then if you lose them, you can go back to the same thing. Don't reword it. Say whatever you said, very clear and concise, the same thing. Repeat yourself. It's okay. Their brain needs it. And remember, when dealing with frustration, you're going to talk about it when they're not frustrated. At a time when they're not frustrated, you may do it as a family, to say, we have a lot of frustration and anger in this family, and people get upset really easily. I get upset really easily. Let's talk about what we can do in our family when we're frustrated. You're going to give them some positive, well, it may not be that positive, but what's okay to do when you're frustrated. I used to ask kids a lot this when they're in the office. I said, what's okay to do when you're mad? And they would tell me things like, well, I can go to my room, or I can breathe, or I could go for a walk. Some things are not realistic. We don't want our kids just walking out the door. But can they go to their room? Can they ask for a break? If they say, I want to just go to my room when I'm frustrated, then you may have to intervene in that and say, I like that you can go to your room and calm down, but we might need to take a break at the table first, or I might need you to say, I need a break before you go to your room. Remember, we're practicing the ideal, and that we know in the situation that it's not going to be ideal. So it's okay to be mad. It's okay to be angry. What are we going to do about it, and how can I help you, right? Lots of conversation about that, but very clear and concise. If this happens, then this happens, okay? And that's the same thing when it reaches the safety issues. If you don't ask for a break, if you don't communicate, or I miss it and you explode, here's what's going to happen. It may be that you're going to do some safety time. It may be that they're going to be in their room until they calm down and can sit on their bed, and then you're going to, get calm with them. It's not going to be punishment. You explode, and then I'm going to ground you for a week or whatever. It's like, good luck with that. But what you're going to do in that moment. So what about when it's really unsafe for other people? What if you cannot get that child to be safe? Then I want you to think about what you can do to create safety. So I want your child to know ahead of time. Like, I have a lot of families that have pets, and for the most part, with your explosive child, your pets know to get out of Dodge, right? They know to get out of the room when that child is angry and upset. But I have some animals that I've seen in some homes that are extremely patient, and they try to calm the person down, and they stay close, right? They stay very close to either the parent or the child. But the first thing that you want to do is create safety for everyone else. So if your child is going after a sibling or an animal, I want you to get them out of the room first. What's already happening with your child is happening. Deal with the immediate first. So I learned this in Taekwondo. I did a lot of training. I'm a 4th degree black belt, and we always deal with the threat first. So if someone has a knife or something like that, you got to deal with that first. And so you want to deal with the immediate threat to the animals or the pets. I think that your child should know that. It's like, if you get upset, I am not going to let you hurt my animals. I will make sure that they leave. So get the animals out of the room, put them outside, put them in their kennel, whatever you need to do, and then work on containment for your child. And that containment for some kids, with younger kids, some parents are able to safely get a hold of their kids. For other ones, it means getting them in a place where they're going to not hurt somebody. Will they hurt their room? Will they be destructive? Yes, especially if you just leave them. But if you stay close by, that helps. But I also need you to be safe. So if staying close by means that you get hurt, you're going to have to create some kind of containment where you don't get hurt also. And we've talked about this explosive and anger before. That is part of your safety plan, that you need to call the police or a neighbor or somebody to help. Then that's what you need to do, because safety is really important. And if you can't establish safety, and if you don't have a plan for it, and your kid knows that you don't have a plan, then it gives them too much, I call it power, but it's really insecure power, and that's not healthy. So know what the plan is when in the safety crisis. Unsafe behavior and meltdowns mean that there's more work to do with your child. They're not handling their frustration. They're not handling things very well. If they have a meltdown because they lose a game, there's more work to do. It doesn't mean we don't play games. It doesn't mean that they always get to win. We have some work to do, and we need to address it, and we need to work on it on the front end, and we need to work through it as it's happening. So know what you'll do in advance with the situation. And like I said, if you can't remove the child from the situation, then you're going to have to remove others first. And then, a lot of this conversation has been about contributing, looking at what's contributing to those meltdowns. And sometimes it's us and our inflexibility and our saying, no, you must or you can't, at a time when we could have worked through it. And sometimes when you first start working through it with kids, they're gonna escalate because they're used to this other interaction. It's like, wait a minute. I'm here to help you. Like, seriously, like, I really want to help you work through this. I'm not just saying don't. I want to help you. I've done that quite a lot, and it actually really works. So it just takes a lot of practice on both ends. Your child has some things to learn, and you have some things to learn too. We all do, because frustration and irritability and all of that is hard to deal with. It makes people challenging, whether they're kids or another person. So remember that compliance is a skill that does not come naturally to all children, and that impulsive negativity is there, and it's not just somebody being defiant. It's part of the way their brain is working. But all of these things are skills, and skills have to be taught, and they have to be practiced. And we're not good at it when we don't have those skills. And not all kids naturally have those skills for whatever reasons. So I hope that this has really helped to resolve the things that are happening and to work to help your kids to work through these things. And if you have questions or thoughts, even if you want to say, like, there's no way that's ever going to work with my kid, that's totally fine. Let's talk about it. And I appreciate your comments. Talk to you later. Thanks for listening to The Parenting Bridge. Do you want to learn more about building a bridge to better behaviors? Pick up a copy of Dr. Michelle Alden's new book, Parenting Emotionally Distressed Kids. Or, for more resources, you can click on the link for Healthy Foundations. If you would like to leave a comment or a question for Dr. Alden, there's a link in the notes. We'll see you next time, and remember, things can always get better.